Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio. I'm your host for the show, and I really appreciate you being here now. We have a webinar coming up, Principles of Coffee Shop Success. You can find a link to that in the show notes. That's coming up on February 11th. Don't miss that. It starts at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, US. And we are excited to launch that for a second time. And also, I want to remind you that key holder coaching groups are mastermind cohorts of coffee shop owners that gather for 6-month cohorts are starting in spring. So the third year now that we're running these, and I really have seen great transformation and benefit in all of the membership, the people that have signed on again and even 3 times in a row, because they see the benefit of meeting in a community of like-minded, experienced coffee shop owners. So if you're a coffee shop owner of 2+ years experience and you want to have a community of focused encouragement, insights, accountability, etc., I mean, this is where you should be looking. So you can find the application in the show notes here as well, or you can just reach out, DM me on Instagram or Chris at keystotheshop.com. So let's talk about plant-based beverages. The folks at pacificfoodservice.com, Pacific Barista Series product has been used worldwide by the best coffee shops and best baristas, because this represents the best of what you can get in plant-based drinks for your customers. It's tested by wonderful baristas before it's ever released. The industry speaks and it says, hey, maybe a little bit more here, a little bit less there. And you end up with this line of products of plant-based performance beverages that really performs on bar the way you want your plant-based beverages to perform, because we're not here to make bad coffee. We're here to make great lattes, great cappuccinos for those that get regular milk, as well as those who want plant-based options. And that's what they do so well. So I would invite you to go to pacificfoodservice.com and find out for yourself what they offer. They'll send you samples and see what I mean. If you're looking for the best plant-based beverages for your customers, then check out the Barista Series from Pacific. But today, speaking of great people, we're going to be talking with Tara and Martyn Knight, who are the owners of Southsea Coffee in the UK, in England. Now, Southsea Coffee has been run by Tara and Martyn. Founded it back 13 years ago. It's a family-run, family-led, focused on atmosphere of non-pretentious, family, welcoming, excellence in the coffee, excellence in the food. It's a great place for brunch and cakes and treats and great coffee. This is one of those places that you kind of walk into and say, this place must have been around for generations. It's well loved by the community, and the decisions made over the years as they have honed this place and refined it. At 13 years, this is their one cafe. So you know that in the refining process, it's all about listening to their customers and also listening to their desires as craftspeople, as business owners, and getting better and better at having that conversation between them and their customers and what they've set out to do in running this. I really enjoy the way that they approach business. It's I wouldn't say a casual way. It's with a great focus, but it's with people first, from the heart, and delivering excellence in the execution of those very much from the heart decisions that they've made. And it's resulted in 13 years of a wonderful legacy in Southsea and Portsmouth. This is the kind of business that I feel is representative of almost the way that I feel a coffee shop should be. This place feels like home. Things done well, relationships at the forefront, and years upon years upon years. This is not something that you just instantly start. You develop it, you cultivate it. And this is why I'm so excited about the conversation. So you're going to get a lot of very, very good information, inspiration, and encouragement, especially because I know a lot of you are people of a similar heart and a similar mindset. So I'm enough from me. Let's get right to it. Talking too much. I just love this interview, and I know you will too. So here now is my interview with Martyn and Tara Knight of Southsea Coffee in Portsmouth. Well, Martyn and Tara, welcome to Keys to the Shop. How's it going today?
Good, thank you.
Good, Chris. Thank you.
All right, it's great to have you on the show. We've been talking about this a little bit back and forth in the DMs on Instagram and so forth, and I just find your story so inspiring and definitely makes me want to be in your cafe every time I look at the food and the coffee and the surroundings that you've cultivated through Southsea Coffee. So bravo. And this is 13 years, right? It's 13 years coming up in May.
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, well done. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. So congrats on that. Why did Martyn and Tara start a cafe? You might have asked yourself that many times, especially in the first couple of years. Who knows?
I don't know. 13 years in, I'm still asking myself the same question. It's like
we had a baby, and I was working full time running a busy restaurant. And when I was on maternity leave, we drank a lot of coffee.
We did, yeah.
Drank a lot of kind of specialty grade coffee. And there was a moment when we ran out of beans and we had to like go online and order
some. We couldn't just go and buy some anywhere in Portsmouth.
So we were kind of like, there's a gap in the market here, and then maybe let's do something together as a family rather than me going back to the restaurant. And
well, the hours I mean, Tara was working like late evenings and stuff, Alfred was like a year old, having a young child working late nights and everything else, it's not ideal. It's quite stressful, so we thought we'd do something that would
we could do together.
Yeah. And we're still married, by the way. It's still managed to hang in there.
Yeah, there's hope for all of you out there. Yeah, going through the same thing.
Exactly.
So the hospitality background, you had worked in and were running a busy restaurant. Had you been doing that for a long time, Tara?
Yeah. That's kind of what I've done all my life. So I started out in kitchens at 16, and then I kind of went to uni and did media arts, so a bit of a curveball, but then got pulled back into restaurants and worked for a family business actually for, gosh, how old was I when we opened the coffee shop? 30 something.
13 years.
Yeah, so probably worked for the same family on and off for 14 years. So I'd grown up working in a family business, knew the benefits of that, and translated it into our own place.
Martyn, and you are both running and operating this coffee shop, and did you have hospitality background as well?
I did, yeah. I have quite a varied background, starting in military communications. Long story short, I ended up running pubs in London for a few years, which was insightful, sort of quite lively. So that really is my background in hospitality, is sort of.
And you brought the building skills.
And yeah, I built the business.
Because when I met him, he was a builder.
So
oh, wow. You kind of built the shop, literally built the shop.
From the ground up. Yeah. So yeah, everything that you see in both businesses is this and that.
Wow. Now describe to us the both of the businesses. You have the coffee shop that we're talking about today, and we'll talk about the other also, but what's your footprint right now as a business?
So Southsea Coffee is coffee. Well, primarily we sell coffee, speciality grade coffee, like great coffee, but in an approachable way. That's like our vibe, kind of non-pretentious, everyone's welcome, but what you get is great. And then obviously we do a lot of food now, and supper clubs and all these kind of different streams. Yeah, that's been going nearly 13 years. But it's got like 20 members of staff. It's like this huge, big
runaway train.
That's
runaway train.
And then because we kind of felt we had it all under control in year 10. We were 10. The shop was 10.
So we thought we'd make our lives more chaotic.
I don't know if we just got a bit bored, or we just kind of thought, everything's kind of like working perfectly and it's going great. and somebody offered us like a tiny unit, and we thought the time was right to start something else. So we started a second business, but it's completely separate, and that's like an independent food store that basically stocks loads of brands that are basically all independent, delicious food, and serves coffee to go, obviously. So yeah, but that's only got 2 members. So that's just you and
me and Lou predominantly.
Yeah, so it's like a completely different ball game. He's left me with the big team. Well, he can host.
I can hide around the corner.
Yeah.
And when you think about your backgrounds, and then I'm just struck by at year 10, you said, Martyn, make your lives more complicated. Others would just say scaling or expanding in some sense.
I think it's really important. I mean, we've seen, especially with a lot of smallish hospitality businesses, there seems to be this drive to open up a second site, a third site, almost become mini brands. And I don't know, there's something for us really special about, if you travel anywhere, you often come across these little family restaurants that have been in a family for decades maybe, but they're just individual, they're just doing their own thing, but they're incredible, and so that desire to refine what you're doing and keep it there, and then maybe do something different. Does that make sense?
I think we've been asked a lot by a lot of people can you come to Chichester? Can you come here? Can you come here? Can you open one at the north of the city? Can you do this? And I think it's just uniquely special in its own right.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think that I don't think we could replicate that. I don't know if we want to replicate it. Is more the
That's the one. You put your heart and soul into a business and a project, and you can't just facsimile it and put it somewhere else. It doesn't. For us, it doesn't work like that.
It would probably make good business sense.
Probably. Probably.
Your customers are obviously enjoying the kind of depth and soul of what you've created. And it might be damaging in some sense to remove some of that by necessity, removing yourselves as you scale and grow the business, to many locations. We see that a lot in cafes. Good on you for staying in this single location and going deeper into creating more value and having things work perfectly. But Tara, you had mentioned that 14 years of working for the same family.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Martyn working for pubs, just an institution in the UK, right? The idea of the English pub. It feels like a little bit of the classic and well-established brand is in your blood.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm quite you always call me like an organized, chaotic person. I kind of like to have to constantly be changing, but I really crave stability. And I love being part of something that's really rooted in its community, and there's depth there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like people that come into the shop are our family, and I've seen it at the family I used to work for. You have people that come and they share their lives, and over the course of over a decade, they grow up in front of us, or we know when I guess that's any good community hospitality place, but you're so we know when they go through sad moments
it's people's lives, isn't it? I mean, we've seen especially here the idea of the traditional local pub in inverted commas is dying.
Decline,
really. It's a really shrinking industry, and my heart goes out to them, because it was for so many years quite pivotal to the community. It was somewhere that people would go and socialize, communicate, and I think that coffee shops and parts of the community business are becoming that. They're taking on that role that the local community pub used to have. And you'll be people making connections, and say you're watching children grow up. We have people whose kids now are kind of 17, 18. They were
they're applying for their jobs now, which is
which is quite funny.
You see your life going before you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. What do you think is behind the shrinking of, you say, the traditional English pub? Is it more than just the pub itself? Is it the mindset of the average consumer that wants something?
They say the research, isn't it, that like the kids, well, sorry,
They
not the
don't-
kids, like the younger,
Just not
like
drinking alcohol.
they're not drinking as much, so
Mhm.
they're kind of they want to go to like the gyms and have healthy food, or go coffee
Yeah.
culture. You know, that wasn't around when I was 18.
What's driving the spend per head is not sitting in a pub drinking beer. They want something, something different, something that more aligns with their.
And there's obviously, I mean, I guess it must be the same in the US, but there's kind of this cost of living crisis in England at the moment, and alcohol is expensive in pubs.
Everything's
Isn't it?
expensive. Everything's going up.
Yeah, I feel for people. I think any industry is difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can be difficult at the moment, but we're not going to dwell on that.
No. No.
Yeah, so I think just coffee shops tend to be where a lot of younger people want to hang out. But we have a big range, so we're not particularly marketing ourselves to.
Yeah, we were referred to
any-
when we first opened. We were referred to as being a hip coffee shop, in inverted commas. Honestly, it's more like hip replacement these days than a hip. It's we have customers from like kind of really young, driven, kind of quite cool individuals, right the way up to your kind of golden generation that come in and just sit down.
Still really cool.
Which is still really cool, and that's lovely because it's completely encompassing. It's
Yes.
not like just for young people, just for old people. It just touches all bases. And that's important to both of
Which
us.
is actually, if you go back to community, is one of the most important things anyway, because then you have cross sections that come together
Absolutely.
in the same space.
Yes.
Whereas maybe like we've got some great local pubs which do have big cross sections, but generally you'll get something that will be for people that want to go out. Generally it's a bit more segregated, isn't it? A pub.
It is, yeah.
There'll be a certain one that will appeal to
Fun pubs.
to like kids. Got to stop calling people kids.
Or the smoking jacket and pipe club.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I guess there's kind of more of, certainly that's our experience, but then that's because we deliberately try and be welcoming to all.
Well, the deliberate part is what I'd love to dive into a little bit more, because when we set our spaces up, there is a certain decision that we make, well, many decisions we make about the menu, about the space, and the values that we have kind of guide us in the decisions that set us up for fulfilling what we set out to do. You want to be accessible. You want to provide this place for multiple generations.
Yeah.
What do you feel guided you to set this up in a way that opens it up and creates that welcoming, non-pretentious atmosphere?
I think the shop's actually changed a lot over the years. We've been 3 different colours in the front.
Yeah.
When we first opened, we were kind of bare wood and millennial grey walls, and very kind of pared back.
Scandinavian almost.
Scandinavian. But a lot of that was to do with budget as well.
Yeah.
Scaffold boards and a bit of paint and a £50 fridge behind the bar.
Yeah. Lots of gaffer tape.
Yeah, but then and then I guess it's kind of reflected where we've been in our own family. So when Alf was 3 and 4, we used to have big drawing walls and low tables and kids' toys in there. And then as he grew up and went to school, that kind of disappeared, which sounds awful, but it's always just been a space that reflects where we would want to go.
It's been part of our journey, I suppose.
And part of our journey. And nowadays it's like pink and green and bright and colourful, and we've come out of COVID and it's felt like everything needs to be bright and colourful and joyous. It's true though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess nothing that intentional really, just we've always made it just a space we would want to go to, and then extended that hospitality to our guests.
It's just honest. It sounds. You are your guest in a sense. You represent somewhat of a a familiar, because you're part of the community,
Mm.
and therefore you are not too dissimilar from the people that come into the place. And so if it's not selfish, it's more of an honest reflection of what your customer base is also probably experiencing, which I
Mm.
imagine leads to a nice, like, I feel that too. And I also feel it in the walls. I feel it in the way I'm treated when I walk in, which is
Yeah.
a huge part of how we do hospitality, which maybe you could speak to that a little bit, because there's the design of the colors and the atmosphere, but the experience itself is largely the connection and the relationships that transpire. Like, what is the way you architect that, if you could use that word? It's a weird word, but how do you go about that?
We have this thing where like we'll always say to each other, where you kind of, sometimes you always remember how somebody makes you feel, and that's more important almost than the coffee you get or the food that you get. I mean, obviously you want that to be delicious, but how somebody makes you feel inside is what you take away from a place. And you don't always get it right. Our team doesn't always get it right. Like we're you sometimes, but if you just, I always just think, just treat everyone like they're your granny.
Do you know what?
Be really nice to people.
Do you remember Cheers? Do you remember Cheers?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that kind of, everybody wants to go somewhere where they know your name.
Yeah.
You just, part of the human condition is you just want connection. And I don't mean superficial connection with the police, yes, that kind of standoffish service. You just want people to be people and actually remember what you drink.
Yeah.
Just like the food, and how is everything, and just whatever problems you get, you deal with. It's just it's being professional, but it's being human at the same time. It's that kind of balance between the two.
I think you kind of, there's so many easy ways to make connections with people, isn't there? And you can, they bring their dog in and you find out what their dog is, or you ask what they're up to in their day and they tell you, and then you can always connect these dots. And even if you can't quite remember somebody's name, because when you serve however many coffees in a day, you're not always going to get everyone's name, but you can remember what they did last week, or you can remember what happened to their mum, or their mum's in hospital, or there's all these details that we can kind of get through conversation with people, which is often how we make deep connections.
I mean, hospitality can open doors if you can sit there and you gauge, I think, with experience, whether someone wants to engage in a conversation, maybe or not, by their demeanor, whether they're looking for eye contact, and then you build on that rapport. You kind of, and it's just, I suppose it's just being human, of remembering what people say and then acknowledging the back. How are you today? How's your mum, dad, dog, nan, kind of, etc., etc. But doing it in a genuine way. It isn't like an autopilot.
Yeah.
And we've been really successful, I think, and it's really humbling when you kind of walk in a place and everyone says hello, and it's lovely. So I'm very extremely proud of what we created. So
when you embody those things in your normal life, it doesn't sound like it's that difficult to extend it to a professional environment.
Yeah.
Where if you were not, for some reason, you started a coffee shop and you feel like, well, I'm not really a people person. Well, God bless you, because I don't know if that's going to work as well. But you want to apply principles and you say, well, we want to have good service, even though this is not really natural to me. It doesn't sound like it's going to work as well. Now, on the flip side, when you are this way and you naturally extend this to the professional environment, there's still those professional concerns about keeping a business running and profitable and streamlined and refinement and all of these things that sometimes it feels like they push against the relationships in a way. How do you navigate needing to make this a business while still making it human, allowing for those sometimes those relational imperfections, but still refining what you're doing kind of in a graceful way that doesn't damage the thing that's very precious about those relationships, but still making it a successful business?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, my old boss always used to say to me, like, look after the people and the bills will look after themselves. She was just like looking after the customers is your number one priority, because they
pay everything.
They're our friends, and they pay the bills, they pay the team, so that, I think that's always the number one priority anyway. But I think nowadays like I've recently had to step back more off the shop floor. Not as in like I'll still go around and chat to people, but you know, I don't do as many hands-on shifts or shifts in the kitchen as I used to do, because the costs now are so much higher than they've ever been, and the business side of it is so much more important than it's ever been. And
it's that fine line.
So now,
isn't there?
so now you have to delegate the hospitality to our team, which is then when you have the not issues, but that's when you have to make sure the training's right and that people
and it's the right person,
and people deal with things how you would deal with things, and while I can then sit there and crunch the numbers and
but equally
stress about that instead.
Equally, you have to work not just in the business, you have to work on the business, and it's that kind of balancing act between being away but involved. So that's a profession, you know. It is tricky, and I think it does help, especially being a husband and wife team, that really, although we have the little side project, the other little business, our main business is Southsea Coffee. And you know, should it come to it, then I'd be drafted in, you know, draft the troops in to go round and help out and do whatever needs to be done. And so, and it is important for me to keep being there as well.
I think you can deliver, to try and answer your question, you can deliver great hospitality, but you can still have boundaries in place.
Yeah.
You know, like we have an aim to turn all our tables within an hour, and you know, we like to get those. Like we're actually quite a small shop. We've only got 8 tables in the main section, and we've got one kind of area at the back. And then if it's not being in England where for today it's raining, you know, we can't use our outdoor space. We can't use the tables out the front. So, you know, on days like today, there'll be 10 tables in the shop, and they need to be turned to pay the wages, because as the business has grown, there's more wages to pay. And, you know, now we're at the point where we have to be busy in order to keep going, you know, to keep everyone in jobs. So I guess it's kind of, you keep the hospitality, but you have some strict
professional boundaries. Yeah, absolutely.
You've been here, you've had enough of my time.
No, I know we don't have free Wi-Fi.
Actually.
Oh, okay.
Contentious,
but we haven't had Wi-Fi for what, 10 years now?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think people just respect the consistency and also boundaries in hospitality. If you were hosting people in your home as a host, you have to have boundaries for your own personal space, even though you've opened it up to other people. So professionally, I enjoy hearing the idea that while it's not pretentious, it's open to all generations, and they take advantage of it and they love it. And it's kept you going and growing for 13 years. Still, there's need for turnover. There's practical considerations. If we want this to be around for another 13 years, that needs to be true.
Exactly. Yeah. We need you to move on.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that is, like, I know you kind of said to us about like the fact that we're quite a food-led business nowadays, and compared to just coffee, that, you know, obviously the spend per head for that is higher. It obviously costs us more to run a business like that because we have chefs and bakers, but essentially we're actually more in control. I feel like you're more in control being food led, because people tend to come out and eat and then go. Whereas when we were more, that's, you know, but when you're more coffee led, you do tend to get people that kind of sit there for 2-3 hours and are quite happy doing that. And we don't have any problems with people doing that if we're not trying to turn the tables. But well, obviously when
we were right back to the early days, we never used to have a reservation service for tables. It was basically a free for all, which was a little bit chaotic at times.
Nowadays we take bookings and everything,
and
so
now
it's almost
we have. You don't have to have a reservation to come.
No.
But we do reserve tables and stuff, and then obviously they get their slot, which it's kind of all quite. Oh no, but it works. It's efficient. They all come, whether it's a table of 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever it may be. They sit. You know, they're expected. They're everything that they want.
Yeah, because we run table service.
And we run table service, and then it all just sort of and that's that.
Yeah.
And this was this a decision to do that table service and reservations. These are things that evolved at what point?
That was COVID.
Yeah.
So up until COVID, we didn't do any of that. And then in the UK, we had to, I'm not sure what rules you had, but we had rules that were, when we were allowed to open back up, we had to take everyone's details.
Yeah.
Which was a wild ride because lots of people didn't like that. So we had to, it was called track and trace. So we had to like keep details from everyone. And then we had to, I think we had to, I can't remember, my memory on it now is vague. It's a long time ago, but we ended up basically taking reservations because it was a way of us managing the space
and the
and timings and numbers. And then I think we had to offer table service because that was,
they didn't want people walking
they didn't
around.
want people walking around.
Yeah.
Yes, that was it. Because when we were allowed to reopen, you had to sit people at tables and they weren't allowed to get up and move around venues.
and there had to be a certain distance among the tables.
And obviously everyone had to wear like the masks and everything and then do table service. So we did that, and actually it was really successful and it gave us control over the business, whereas before we'd open at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, we'd have a queue out the door, everyone would order at once, there'd be a wait for food, whereas now we can say we only book out 2 tables every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so we've constantly got the flow of customers
which helps the baristas, the chefs, the floor staff. It just means it's just
staggering the service.
It's staggering it, and it's just controlling it all.
So actually it was beneficial. It worked really well for us and we kept it, but that's not without its issues, because then people come in and
is anything ever going to be perfect in hospitality? Maybe not.
No. I really love that this silver lining to a stressful time came about in your cafe. And we've talked to a lot of folks where different opportunities actually came up through COVID. It's really nice to hear that. And when you say it's better for the baristas, it really strikes a chord with me, because I was a director of coffee at a French restaurant in New York for a little bit, and working the espresso machine and serving coffees to the servers that had table orders. You could get a lot done just being one person on the bar, just because the staggering of the orders and the timing, there was boundaries.
Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah, because when you don't have that, you're just at the whim of the general public, and like for some reason everyone likes to go for a coffee like on the hour and at the half hour. We'll meet at 11:30, we'll meet at 11. So you get these big waves and people wait, and having those boundaries in that system works.
Helps. It does help, definitely.
Yeah. You mentioned that it also was good for your business. Now, the timing and the efficiency of things. Now, when you add restrictions, people are wondering, okay, well, what about the profitability aspect? Like, surely just letting more people in with no restrictions would be better for the bottom line of the business.
If you try to picture this on a Sunday morning, we would open at 10. We figured out it's a Sunday, people maybe don't have to get up as early. We're open at 10, we'll close at 4. So you'd literally get the staff in and everyone be ready to go, kitchen, baristas, floor staff, and you would have a gathering of people outside the shop. There's no word of a lie. And you'd be all looking at each other and you'd be like, ready? And you'd be like, okay. And you would open the front door and they would come pouring through the door. They would like literally be scrabbling all over the place, bodies sitting on chairs and bags and kids and push chairs. And then
they'd form a queue.
And there's literally the barista tickets going, just checks all down here, the kitchen printers going on. Yeah. So if you came in at the back end of that, if you imagine we sit about 30 odd people just inside, if you came if you came on the back end of that, you might have only been in the queue, but your food's going to take X amount of time to produce. So you could be sitting there getting all frustrated, and because there's no physical queue. Where's my coffee? Where's my food? Why am I waiting?
There's no tables for anyone that walks in then for the next hour.
And then it's so by kind of it's not so much reservation. Think of it as a filter. Yeah. You're filtering it through, so you're just kind of stopping too much being overloaded. You're just kind of letting it flow. It's more like letting it, filtering it to control it rather than to stop it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
because it was
Absolutely.
overwhelming. It was.
And I
It
think
was.
doing it like that as well.
And
We have an average turn time for a table of two. Like our average turn time including
yeah,
eating is about 40 minutes.
but we had,
So
but we
from when
had.
they come in to when they go, so if you can turn those tables, but you're doing them consecutively one after the other, that's much easier and quicker and more efficient than just serving everyone at once.
But there were
Yeah.
multiple stories
I think.
of customers, of relationships that we'd built with customers and their families, and all of a sudden they're conspicuous by their absence, and you're kind of like, okay, I haven't seen Sarah or Dave, or I haven't seen these people for quite a long period of time. And I remember bumping into a few of them, and you're kind of like, oh, right. They're like, oh, yeah, we just time we get there, we can just never get a table. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
I wondered where you were going
Yeah,
with that.
and so back to, like, obviously open the doors at 10 o'clock. It's chaos. People that were really supportive, which is obviously our customers, but they were kind of struggling the time they get there, or they come in and there might be one seat there, and so it was just kind of, it had to be managed. It kind of, because that chaos would set the precedent. Chaos sounds like it wasn't out of control. It was just.
I mean, for us, it works. For us, being more food led as well, it works because we can flow it, and we can get more people in.
Yeah.
By doing that.
I love to hear it. And the food led part is interesting also to think about how a business that often will experience some restrictions if it's table service. In coffee shops do table service all the time, and are a lot of people experimenting with that. But if they have a small space, oftentimes they don't expand what they do. They try to become more minimal. And yet you have expanded, and you did this decision to create a lot more food in the business. And I imagine this is something that was led from customer demand, or just your own hearts to create more for your customers.
Yeah, my wife
bored really quickly. And
so I'll give you, when we first opened 2013, the local newspaper, all of a sudden someone turned around to us and like, oh, you guys have been nominated for Restaurant of the Year in like the local area. We were like, what? And if you could have seen the kitchen that we had at the time, it was a small enclosed space, and involved basically the two technical items, and I'm not joking here, was a blowtorch and a toaster. There we go. There we go. All right, because when we took the lease on the building, the landlord was quite explicit. We have no gas supply, so we can't actually cook with any kind of gas hobs. He didn't want any extraction or any, because there's like a residence club above the coffee shop, which is separate, but it's people use the space up top. And he didn't want extraction fans, and he didn't want the risk of gas cooking.
Which actually suited us at the time because we had a very limited budget.
Yeah.
And like planning is quite... We actually had to submit the planning to turn it. It was a retail shop when we took it over. And we had to submit the planning to do that and then build it and everything.
Yeah.
So the fact that we could only do a cold kitchen suited our budget. We just needed a fridge and a toaster.
We ended up becoming very inventive with regards to food dishes, to menu.
Yeah, I got like really into raw food for ages.
And people loved it. And I think it was quite refreshing. It was through no choice. It was like, okay, these are our restrictions. This is what we have to work with. Right, let's just push it, and we did.
Yeah.
So when we had a blowtorch and a toaster, and we won Restaurant of the Year, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome. But you wanted this. You really, you made it happen because it was your desire to add food.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then as such, now the kitchen's 3 times the size. So there's a bake kitchen downstairs.
Yeah, I guess for us, it's almost like the customers have kind of paid for it as they've gone along themselves, because as people have come and they've spent their money, we've then reinvested all of that money into, so what started off with the toaster and the blowtorch and the fridge, then we got a dehydrator, then we decided to start making our own cakes. We bought an oven, then we built a kitchen downstairs, then we expanded the kitchen upstairs.
But
it's always been done.
We've always had, what hospitality's like. There is always an option in a packet. If that's what you want, there is always a supplier you can phone and something comes pre-packed, ready-made. But we don't do any of that. No. We make everything. Apart from the sourdough bread. We make all the condiments. Everything's cooked, prepared, fresh, right the way from whether it's honeycomb crumpets right the way through to Turkish eggs, whatever it is the customer has, we're responsible
the most
for.
technical dishes.
Well, not really, but we've been down that road, haven't we? And that means a lot to us, even like the tomato sauce and the brown sauce that people might have on a bacon sandwich.
Yeah.
We make the sauces rather than bring them in, and that's a conscious decision.
But it's a costly decision, because then the labour cost is huge. So,
but
and then you've got that battle over like why are we doing this? If we, you always say to me like it's eco led because I want to make everything. So, but now we're busy, so busy that I obviously can't make everything, and I have to concentrate on the business. So we've got 4 chefs, which is expensive, But
I think
I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't want to sell anything I didn't believe in. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Chris, if I was to ask you, how many times have you been out for dinner or been out for something, and it's just maybe not bad, but equally maybe not great, and it's just kind of, it's okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, it's okay, and it's the okay is that area you don't really want to be in. The okay, you want to give someone a great experience. You want to give someone a great plate of food, a lovely cup of coffee. And so for us, that's kind of where we try to go. Not really interested in any kind of race to the bottom. Everything it's about quality. And I think that's one of the reasons we've managed to sort of push the business and keep going, because I think people appreciate that. You're not going to go out and pay for something that you can make at home yourself. I think that's a bit of a cop-out.
Yeah.
I like that approach a lot. And of course, I mean, most like 85-90% of the time go out. If my wife and I, when the rare date happens with a kid, it's, oh, well, we're just thankful to be able to go out. And it's not raving about the experience. And it sounds like you are looking to the metric that sometimes we lose sight of, and the quality metric and the experience that the guests have in the process of coming in and enjoying your food and coffee. Sometimes we can get lost in the numbers, and that can throw us off and say, well, this will save us money. We'll have a higher margin if we have this prepackaged, or we have fewer people and therefore the service is off a little bit, but it makes us more money. And so that becomes sort of like an invasive thought that starts to eat all of our quality control focus. And so it sounds like you've avoided it to a degree where you can still be very sensitive to, are people really enjoying what's happening here? Truly, we're not gaslighting ourselves. They really are.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we've had we've had some really good chefs work with us over the years. But it's Tara's inspiration is the one that drives a lot of it, and as it should be,
But I think also, I think it's a bit like, you were saying about although actually we're becoming a little bit more commercially minded now because we have a bigger team to support and the costs are more difficult. But traditionally the shop, a bit like how the venue itself has changed over the years to reflect what we are into and the space we would want to go to, the food has also done that too. So the food, for back in the early, when it was the cold kitchen, it was raw food and it was the height of clean living. And I think that's why we first became so popular for the food, was because we were kind of hitting that trend. But that was actually how we were eating ourselves. And then we kind of started eating more meat and eggs, and then started bringing that in, and and it's kind of still always been a reflection of what we want to eat ourselves and how our tastes have changed. So I guess that's that authenticity in food again, maybe. I think the only and then the feedback's good, but now it's more. Now I actually look at the sales and I go, right, is this dish selling? Can we take that off the menu? No, we can't take the Turkish eggs off the menu, or the smashed avo or whatever.
So smashed avo, there's a story there, isn't there? We when we were really still kitchen with no utensils, with our wonderful toaster and our blowtorch, one of our customers came back from Australia and they were just they were raving. They were in Melbourne. We went to this cafe and we had smashed avocado on toast, and we were like, whoa. And they were kind of,
I do remember
yeah,
it.
and they were like, whoa.
They even employ somebody
As
just
an
to smash
avocado
avos.
smasher. And we had this, we had
Like, ping,
we had this
okay.
whole conversation of like, do you reckon our customers would get it? Yeah, let's try. And
obviously now it's a staple.
It's one of our biggest sellers even now. You know,
Yeah,
sort of
people
like
still love it.
people still absolutely love the dish, and it's just fantastic. You know?
In fact, somebody DM'd me from Indonesia today saying that they're on the search for a better smashed avo than ours. This one might fit the bill, and I was like, "Does it though?" And she's like,
No.
"Yours is still my favourite."
Oh, good. Wow.
Yeah,
Man, that's a little time jump right there when the stuff was a little bit new.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like it's weird now to think even that was.
We even had to have a conversation of, do you think our customers will get smashed avocado on toast? Now it's like everywhere you go, it's just avocado on toast. Yeah.
Not that we were like trailblazing, but
that's why it's funny.
Yeah.
It always made me smile.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the team expansion and bringing on people who you said they have to be the right people.
Yeah.
And then you have to supply the right training for them to be able to do what you're doing. And so can you be a little bit more detailed about that? How do you find the right people? And then how do you care for the right people?
How do we do that?
I think managing people is probably one of the hardest things within hospitality. Well, in any job, you know, because people have different expectations about roles and maybe different ideas about their own experience and stuff as well.
I mean, it's a bit of a problem for me. Like Lou, one of our managers, says that I'm all rainbows and unicorns. So I'll meet someone and I'll be like, "You're the best person I've ever met in my life." And then I'll sell the business to them and be like, "You must come and work here."
I tend to be the checks and balance on the no.
So I think we hardly ever recruit. So people tend to, it tends to be like an organic process. It's weird. Like people will just kind of approach us, or they'll send us a CV, or something will
what it's always
happen.
been.
We recruit chefs because they have to have a certain level of experience. But front of house tends to be people that come into the shop, or, you know, we'll need somebody, there'll be an opening and we'll say we've got a few hours and we'll already know them and have kind of a rapport with them. Or they'll, you know, people come into the local and have said to you, I'm looking for a job, and then something will come up, and, you know, so it tends to be a bit of a kind of networking thing anyway.
We're like any hospitality business, which can be transient. You know, you can have staff that are there briefly or not briefly, or, you know, for whatever reason. But our business has always had a very interesting way of, it kind of moves people on. If people come and for whatever reason they don't get it, don't feel like our approach, or necessarily they don't tend to hang around for too long. The business almost just off you go. You know, it kind of moves them on. So that's I
guess like we work. I mean, not so you much anymore because you're the local, but I tend to work really closely with everyone anyway. I'm there most days, you know, behind the bar with the baristas, in the kitchen. You know, I still, you know, somebody's on holiday this week, so I'm doing 2 kitchen shifts and just kind of slotting in a little bit and being there, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of teach the ethos.
Yeah.
That's probably not a very professional answer.
I mean, it works.
We have strict rules.
No, you do have standards though. You have to.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, in the standards that you have for people. Now, you just talked about the balance between having a very generous disposition towards a person and positive, being affirming towards them. But then there's the practicalities of the business of the day and the technical abilities of a server to be able to, they can't just look deep into the eyes of one customer for 10 minutes. They have to move on to other people. And so there's the practicalities I'm interested in also, where I love the idea that there's this, the catching of the spirit of the place that happens through your apprenticing them, essentially. being there.
Yeah.
But then there's the practicalities that have developed over the years. I'm curious what those might be for a space like yours.
As in the training or like the systems that we use. Yeah. So I've got this thing where I quite like to have like for initial kind of floor training or whatever, they all obviously follow their systems. We've actually just changed to Square
Till systems,
for our till. So we've kind of gone like digital now, and we've got like handheld like order pads, which for someone like me that's been taking an order for 25 years on a pad is like wild. But so obviously there's kind of systems that they just follow that basically the technology implements nowadays. But we have quite a strict like order of service that, you know, like the key holder will sit them, then they'll hand it over and someone will get them water, and then the next person comes to get the drink. You know, like there's quite a strict flow to it.
Yeah.
Which I install, and people obviously assume that as part of their training.
Well, I think if you structure training, whether it's on the floor, whether it's the barista, you know, you've worked in coffee yourself. If you understand what you're doing, and this is, you do this, and then you do this, and then it's easy. It's like just follow the rules, follow the guidelines. You know, the little
baristas are always a bit more tricky, though, aren't they? I think because they have their own ideas of what they think a perfect drink is, and you know, it's then trying to get them to do it how we want them to do it can be tricky, you know, because they're skilled people, but there can be a bit of conflict that you have to manage and try and get them to do it how you want to do it.
I think that's the ego. But
generally
it's the ego thing, isn't it? We have had a couple of people that perhaps thought they were a bit of a superstar chef, and not so much
chef.
We've had a few people that have followed their own what they wanted to do, and with regards to the raw food, when we you know, this was what the chef wanted to do. He wanted to take the restaurant in this kind of direction, and Tara was kind of like, okay.
That's actually over the years it has been a big learning curve, because I'm, as I say, like rainbows and unicorns, and my management style has always been to try and like lift people up. So I'm very accommodating with people, and I'm kind of like, I really want your input and your feedback, and like make you part of this family and this kind of bigger vision, and you know. But obviously, then I've realised over the years that you can be like that essentially, but you have to give people quite strict boundaries and say, this is actually how it has to be done, and this is how I want it done.
And it has to be included.
But how about we develop a new drink, and you can have some input on that, or a special, and you can have some input on that. But our core products are done like this. You know, we're not quite to spec sheets, but we are, you know, highly trained into making sure people are doing things the same way.
That must have been a little difficult for you at first to draw those lines in spite of your disposition. Did it feel like you were going against what you felt was right to draw those lines?
Yeah, because I think I want people to be the best versions of themselves, and to be able to express themselves, and you know, feel like their input's really valid. But you can still do that and do it whilst within, you know, this is a commercial business, and we do have to make sure that consistency is right across the board.
Yeah, we had a chef who was talented, and we ended up with a lot of raw food dishes on the menu. And obviously we have the menu in the front window of the shop, and the food was delicious, by the way. I've no issues with any of the dishes on there, but for a lot of the general public, they didn't know what they were looking at when it came to the menu. They're they're reading the dishes, and you'd see them kind of look at each other and be like, and if people are unsure, and they have never tried it, they'll err on the side of caution, and they'll just be like, oh, we'll go somewhere else. People walked away, and watching people looking at the menu and then walking away, you're a bit like, oh, okay.
And I think I think the biggest lesson from that is probably that in a business you need to have the ability to pivot. Is a really important thing. So, you know, you can try something, or you can think that you're going down a road that's good, or even have the team say, let's kind of try this. But if it doesn't work,
Move on.
You just need to move on
Yeah.
quickly and change what you're doing. And we've done that. We've actually done that a few times, and sometimes it's not necessarily something's not even working, or it's just not quite like
right.
hitting it as we want it,
So I think these days there are so many people that open a business, and when they open the doors, they want to be everything, all all encompassing. And I think that maybe seems a little, not foolish is the wrong word, but you always need to give yourself a bit of wiggle room, just an ability to kind of open up and then grow, to put your feelers out and kind of feel what's organic, feel where am I going to go? We're going to go that way. I like that. And then maybe move the business in one direction, or that's not great, or we'll swing it round and move back in the other direction.
Although, I mean, we're currently actually going through a process of trimming down what we do. So we've kind of and actually I listened to one of your podcasts, quite a recent one, and you were talking about that and how, like sometimes you think you need to add this, and this to your menu, but actually you don't. You were talking about going out and marketing in the local community and like making sure that people know about us more than just adding stuff on because you think that's what going to draw people in.
Yeah,
so we're actually going through a process of refining stuff a little bit at the moment. But I think it's a constant refinement anyway, isn't it? We change as people, customers change needs, all the time. Like that there'll be, I can think of people that when they first started coming to us were like latte with 4 sugars, that now only drink single origin V60s and and maybe that's a reflection on the coffee. But it could also be just a reflection on them and their natural changes anyway.
Yeah.
Sure. And I imagine there's a safety that people feel. Change is naturally something we feel a little bit cagey around. And if they trust the environment, they can engage in that vulnerable activity of changing, which is a very high honor, I think, when people do that within the walls of your business and trust you to be the one.
Yeah. And I guess, like, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking, God, we have changed that shop so many times. Like, we've changed, the food has gone through so many evolutions. And the shop itself, the environment has gone through so many changes, and it still changes. We've got some artists coming to do.
It's organic, isn't it?
It's organic, but I think at the core of everything is that people feel safe, and they feel like they say that all the time. Like they feel like this is a safe space for them, and I think if you've built that trust and that community, you can change, and people will change with you. But I'm like, I don't know if it's a good business model. I don't know if it's good advice, because it's like all encompassing, being a changeling kind of.
But then that's why that's why we only have one business like that.
Yeah, that's why we've never expanded.
If you had a franchise, if we had a business model and I could go, ta-da, there it is. Franchise that, but you couldn't franchise Southsea Coffee
because you'd have to take me out
because it's still very much alive. It's still very much evolving and kind of developing and refining itself, and not quite sure where it's going to go, but that's part of the journey. That's part of the fun.
Yeah, well said. I love this, especially how we've kind of landed on this idea of the organic. You're almost in this, a poet that I enjoy named David White talks about the conversational nature of reality, and you're having a conversation with your business and with your community, and that exchange creates who you are over time. And you've built something beautiful by having that conversation. What are you most proud of? What brings you today, looking back on what is almost 13 years, what brings you the most joy for having done and seen grow?
I think just the community and the shop. And that sounds like a really cliched answer, but people are like genuinely invested in that space. Like they feel fiercely protective over it. They like it and it's, I think that's actually like being able to build a space that people feel like that is theirs, but it's it's something that we've created, and like
I think it's the little snapshots for me where you turn round and you look around and like every seat is full. There are people waiting for tables. There's your background music. There's the hum of the coffee machine, the grinders, the kitchen's in full effect. There's that noise coming from all the tables. There's food being devoured.
Do you have time to observe
and just
that?
occasionally just to step back and kind of go, whoa, okay. It's like, and I remember the days when we were trying to get the business open and talking to people, and people were like, don't know about that. There's a Starbucks around the corner. You've got a Costa around there, and you're like, no, but that's not what we want to do.
Yeah, or even the first few years, I guess you can see the growth, and we opened with 5 members of the team, and we actually didn't have the money to start the shop. We had this like really big business, like I kind of worked on this business plan, hadn't I? And it was like really comprehensive and really detailed. And the bank was like, yeah, best business plan I've ever seen. You're definitely going to get the money. I was like, great. So we signed a lease. My mum lent me some money. We signed the lease, gave half that money to the solicitors. And then the bank was like, oh, actually, no, we're not going to lend you the money. So then we had to beg and borrow everyone. And I remember saying to my mum, can you take me to IKEA to buy some plates and on her credit card? And then I turned to you and I was like, you've got to finish building this shop. We've got no money. We haven't got any money left.
So it's a true story. I said to Tara, I need another week to finish up. And she said, you've got 2 days. We have to open Saturday.
Yeah, and we don't have any. We can't afford to pay. Because Martyn built it with our friend. And I was like, we can't afford to give him any more money because we've got no money.
Yeah, when we opened, so bear in mind, 13 years ago, we opened the shop. We had £50 in the till. Yeah. And that was all the money we had.
I borrowed from my mum.
That was all the money we had in the world. We had nothing, like bank accounts exhausted, no credit cards, everything, all gone, 50 quid.
Even the coffee machine. So we were kind of like, we'd like written in the business plan, like this is the coffee machine that we want. And then obviously couldn't get it because the money fell through. So we had to phone Dale at Has Been, and we were like, Dale, we haven't got the money to buy a coffee machine. So he was like, oh, I've got this friend Chris. And then Chris didn't even know us. And he was like, oh yeah, I'll give you an ex demo machine and you can pay me back for the next 12 months.
10 months. Whatever. 10 months, £100 a month.
Anyway, and
yeah, brilliant.
So we basically kind of like begged, like I was like, Ray, come and do the skirting boards for us. Like, Mum, we don't have any money for the float.
Again, from opening, we called in loads of people, a sense of community.
Yeah, and I think there was like us and like 3 people on that first day, and then obviously now I think that's what's going back to what makes us proud is that now you look at it and it's like 13 years in. It's got we're on our 3rd coffee machine that we actually custom. Yeah. We've got 20 members of staff. We're people describe it as like an iconic Southsea business. Yeah. And I guess that but that's been built by the people that go there. They're the ones that have financed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that probably is what that grit and determination is what makes me proud.
Yeah.
Which I still feel like you have to do now 13 years in because there's always issues that keep coming up and challenges. And so maybe the fact that we're still married is the greatest achievement.
It's so wonderful.
Yeah. So
wow.
Does that make? I think just like that's just.
I hope we've answered your questions and not just rambled too.
And 1,000 times more. Yes, it's very inspirational to hear this kind of reflection on the journey and the energy and the spirit with which you speak of it still is evidence that this is the kind of life-giving business, not just for customers, but for you as well and for your community. So I really appreciate you both kind of sharing like this. This is awesome.
We're not always this positive. Sometimes I'll come home and be like, this happened today, or we've got we might have to have some major building works, which is our biggest challenge at the moment, isn't it? And he'll just be like, hospitality, I don't want to do it anymore.
Sure.
Wake up the next morning going,
that's all right, it's fine, yeah. Sometimes you just got to vent, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
I don't know We do a different industry because it's,
Uh,
I don't know.
I don't know. It's yeah.
Well, I love what you've built, and the story is amazing. And I know that I'm not the only one here who's feeling very lifted by it. So, as you like to do with people, Tara, this conversation has done exactly that. Where can people learn more about Southsea Coffee? On socials, online?
Yeah, we're us at Southsea Coffee.
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, we're just Instagram, Facebook, got our website. I did join LinkedIn this week.
Wow.
Yeah,
All right.
again, after listening to your podcast, I was like, I kind of went into work that week and I was like, right, everyone, this is the new Tara. I'm going out and I'm going to make sure everyone knows about us.
Yeah.
And join LinkedIn, and actually that was
brilliant.
Got a good response, so that was good. So yeah, but yes, I'm on LinkedIn if anyone wants to connect, because apparently I can connect. Outside of the four walls of the shop. Yeah,
you are a human being outside.
But yeah, Instagram's our like big thing, I guess. So that's our big platform.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you both of you for being here. I appreciate what you've built, and sharing your story here is so amazing, and it's an honor. So thank you for being on the show.
Chris, thank you so much for asking us. We were so chuffed.
We both got big chuffy smiles kind of like.
Thank
Cheers.
You.
Take care.
Okay, everybody. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Tara and Martyn Knight, and I certainly did. It was one of those conversations that I feel when we talk about tactics, we talk about tips and steps and templates and all these things. They have their place. But when you get somebody like this, who, when you get the heart-led, excellence in all things, relationship focused, like they say, good coffee, good food, good people idea, and you just dedicate yourself to it and you give yourself an abandon to it, then you get Southsea Coffee, you get your business. I mean, this is available to everybody. It doesn't, so a lot of our ideas of what coffee shops should be are based on the testimony of other people, the experiences we have, and sometimes we make it too much of an academic exercise and not enough from the heart. And that's what I love about it. You can taste it in the coffee and the food, and you can feel it in the service. And that all comes back to you as the operator and sustains you as a person. I can sense that, I can see that, and you can hear it in the way they speak about it at Southsea Coffee. So huge thank you to Tara and Martyn Knight for being on the show. I really am so grateful for what you've been doing for your community, what you've been doing for coffee, and being here on the show has been so meaningful. So thank you both. Another great Founder Friday with the folks at Southsea Coffee. Have a great day. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.